Welcome everyone. In this Python Panda tutorial, we will study about the reindexing and how to alter the labels of data frame. So let's get started. Reindexing and altering labels. While creation of data frame, the rows and columns labels are generated automatically. But we can change the rows and columns as and when required by different methods. Some of the method to do that is rename, reindex, reindex underscore like. So these are the three functions through which we can rename our labels. So what does rename function do? Rename method renames the index or column label in the data frame. Reindex method specify the new order of existing indexes and column labels, also creates new index or column label. And reindex like function creates index or column label based on other data frame objects. So let's see one by one what does these function do. So the very first function is rename. In rename, there are different arguments or parameters which we need to keep in mind. So we have two forms in which we can use rename. So we have the first form like data frame dot rename, mapper, which default value is none, access default value none, in place false. The second variation is data frame dot rename, index none, column none, in place false. So here mapper, index, columns are dictionary like structure. What names are to be changed? Access will specify the row or the column. By default the value is 0 and in place is by default false. If you want that in place is true, that means the changes are made in current data frame. If in place value is false, that means new data frame is returned with the prospective changes. So let's see example. We have this data frame. If we want to rename these rows like 0, 1 and 2, we want to rename, we will just write index equals to, and we will take a dictionary 0. So instead of 0 you want ONE should be written, instead of 1 you want 2, instead of 2 you want 3. So, and if you increase the dictionary so on, all the row labels will be changed, but I have changed only the 3. That's why only 3 row labels are changed in this output. Now, if I print the older data frame, nothing is changed because by default in place is false. But in this example, I am taking in place equals to true. That means the changes are made in the same data frame. So you can see I am printing dfht, the changes are reflected here only. You can also see in the example, so we have a data frame dfht. We will change. Now here if I want to change for all, I can just write 3 and then I'll write and 4 and so on. We can do it this way. So now if I run, what will I get the output? See, so the row label till 4 row is changed here, you can see, right? Now if I print the value, there is no change in the older database because here I have made d new. But if I print d underscore new, the changes are shown here. Here again, if I write in place equals to true and run, the dfht will have this changed value. The column headers can also be changed by writing columns instead of index. So let me run this and show you the column headers are changed. I can also print through XII. That means if I don't mention column here and I simply write a dictionary, comma, XII, it will take the headers for column because I have mentioned here x equals to 1. Now let's see reindex method. The syntax for reindex method is dataframe.reindex. The arguments are index, columns, methods, fill value. Now, the labels are the array-like or optional. Index and columns are also array-like or optional. Access is by default 0. And fill underscore value are the values that is to be filled for newly added row and column. So if we want to reorder the existing index using function, how to do that? Now if I have a data frame df2 which contains the marks of 5 subjects of 4 students, if we want that the order of the name should change accordingly, we will just write the list in which the ordering should be there. So in df2 we have Anant, Arina, Arun and Astha, but now I am changing the order to Arina, Arun, Anant and Astha. So after writing that, when I print the value, I get the shuffled row. Now if you want to change the row, you also have the second method, that is where you specify index equals to and the list. If mentioned column or index does not exist, then nan values are inserted. For example, if I write a new name which is not existing in our data frame like summer. So for summer, the value of the subjects will be nan. This nan value can also change to NA or 0 by writing fill underscore value. So first let's see how do we do this. So you're here to run, we'll get, now we are doing reindex. Okay, so output is now on axis 0, also you'll get the same output. Now let's talk about summer here. So if we are doing it here for summer, summer is not included in the list before in the data frame, so you get the nan value. Now if you want to change the value of nan to NA, so we'll just write fill underscore value equals to NA and then we'll get the output NA. Now instead of NA, if you want to write 0 or you want to write 22 value, so I'll just write fill value 22 here. I will get all the values to 22. Now let's see how to reorder as well as add or delete the indexes or label. We have already discussed this. Now reindex like method works on data frame and reindexes data as per argument. Actually the main function is to match the indexes between the two data frames, and if there is a non-matching indexes, it will be filled with nan values. So let's see the example here. So if we have two data frames df1 and df2, if we have two data frames like this, df underscore 2 dot reindex like df underscore 1, I will run, this is my answer. So now how this answer has been arrived, so let's see here. Whenever we write df2 underscore 2 dot reindex like df1, what we need to keep in mind is that all the row as well as column labels of df1 will be intact in the new output. So df1 has Anant, Arina, Arun, Astha, so even the output for reindexing will be Anant, Arina, Arun, Astha, and the columns English, Math, Hindi, Science and Social Science. The thing which will change is the data inside the data frame. So for this, it matches the data, overlapping data between df1 and df2. If the data is overlapping, the data of df2 is taken. Like for example, in case of Anant's English marks, the data for df1 is 40 and Ananth is 30, but 30 is taken into consideration here. For maths, both are same, so 35 is taken. But there is no Hindi marks in DF2, so the marks taken is NAN. So there is no Hindi science or social science marks in DF2, so every mark is replaced by NAN. Now when you come to arena, there is no row called arena in DF2, so the values are NaN. So whatever values are matching, the value for DF2 is taken. So in second case, when we do DF underscore 1 dot reindex like DF2, what happens is the row and the column headers of DF2, whatever is passed in the argument is taken, and the values will be based on DF1. So when we compare Anand's English marks, 30 is in DF2, 40 is in DF1, but 40 is written. So whenever we are comparing the data, the DF1 data will supersede and the data which is not present will be replaced by NaN. Thank you.